As much as I love my little collection of film cameras and as much as I love shooting film, I'm always shocked when I see how much money some of those old cameras are being sold for. Like some of those old Leica rangefinders still being sold for €1,000+. There's just no way. There's no way that using that type of camera is that much more fun than using this camera that I got for €20 off eBay. Or is it? Well, in this video we will find out with this, the Voigtländer Vitomatic 1. Wait, let me show you guys. Oh. So for those of you who are new to the channel and don't know the lore yet, so my granduncle originally gave me his old Voigtländer Vitomatic 1 and I wanted to film a review on it, but as I was trying to film the review I realized that it was broken and that the shutter didn't work anymore. I worked 3 days straight on trying to fix it, but eventually I just found out that there was some small little springs in there that had become loose and that were kind of deformed and didn't function anymore, and at that point I realized that there was just no way I was gonna fix that. I don't have the equipment, the knowledge, the skill for that, just not happening. And I was pretty sad because I was very excited to use that camera. The Voigtländer Vitomatic 1 actually was a camera that even as it wasn't working, whenever I came in my room I often just picked the camera up. It didn't even work, didn't have film in it, but I just picked it up and just kind of played with it because I just like the way the camera feels and I like just the way the camera is so different from anything else that I've ever seen. And I was so excited to use it and I was very sad when I realized that it wasn't gonna happen. So I went on eBay and I looked at similar models and I actually managed to find the exact same camera for just €20 plus shipping on eBay. And so I bought it and now it's here. Also just a small little disclaimer, you see I now have the TT Artisan Light Meter 2. Those of you who follow me on TikTok already know, or on Instagram, whatever you prefer. But this does have a light meter which does seem to be functional, but it's kind of giving me wrong values. So I have this to kind of make sure that I get the correct exposure for today. I'm gonna compare those to see if this maybe works, but I don't think it does work correctly. It's kind of getting me the wrong number, so light meter it is. At least I don't have to use my phone anymore. Some more infos on this camera. This camera uses 35mm film and it has a fixed 50mm f2.8 lens. It's very old. From what I could find, it was released in 1957. The brand Voigtländer still exists, but they don't make any cameras anymore, they only make lenses. And in this video I'm using the film stock Kodak Gold 200, if you care. Also, because this camera isn't an SLR camera, it doesn't have all of those mirrors and stuff in there. Which means that when you press the shutter it is a lot more quiet than SLR cameras, because it doesn't have to move the mirror out of the way. Like for example my Cusina Highlight 4.2, it just sounds like you are moving 2 kilos of pure metal whenever you press the shutter. This camera is extremely quiet in comparison, which I think is kind of the intention. As far as I understand, these types of cameras are intended to be used in crowds of people or just places where you can't be that loud. But let's be honest, film photography without a loud shutter noise, it's kind of boring, no? I guess listen for yourself. Here's some camera ASMR. So one thing I'm already enjoying quite a lot is the viewfinder actually. So because this is a rangefinder camera, there's no sort of mirror in here. So for example in the Canon A1 there's a bunch of mirrors in there. If you look through the viewfinder, you look through the mirrors through the actual lens, which means you can see is the lens sharp. There is a light meter in there in the viewfinder, so you can see is my image exposed properly. This doesn't have all of this. All this viewfinder has is a little box that shows me where the edges of my picture are gonna be. That's it. I'm sorry by the way if it's loud, I think they're cutting down trees back there. So I hope you don't hear it. This makes focusing the camera and getting the right exposure much harder. This entire front lens element is pretty hard to work. But once you're done with all that, and once you're looking through the viewfinder, there's nothing you could be looking at, nothing you could be focusing on, other than the picture you're gonna take, the landscape you're gonna be photographing. And that's actually pretty enjoyable. There is no distraction. You're just looking in here, or the other side of this little window, and you just see the actual thing in front of you. No mirrors in the way, nothing that could take your attention away from what you're actually looking at. And it's actually pretty fun. Once you're done setting this camera up to take a shot, which is pretty annoying, I'm going to talk about that, but once you're done with that, and once you're actually looking through the viewfinder and trying to compose the picture, as much of a composition as my pictures have, once you're doing it, there's nothing else you can be thinking about other than what you're looking at, where the things are positioned in your shot. That's actually pretty cool. I'm sorry if you can hear any noise while I'm recording. I somehow managed to find a construction site in the middle of the forest. Just in the middle of the forest, and right back there they're building a new lake, I think. So that's my luck. Well, I hear you asking, so how do you focus this camera? Which advanced focusing mechanism does it have? Does it have some sort of focusing mechanism in the viewfinder, like the Canon A1? Does it have an actual rangefinder, which is going to tell you how far stuff is away? No, it actually has a way more advanced focusing mechanism, really modern, really advanced. It's called Vibes and Hope, which is where I hope that I don't just get back a bunch of blurry images later. Jokes aside though, this is a pretty big challenge for me. So when I got this camera, I had no idea how to use it, so I just looked up the manuals and found out that it's a rangefinder camera and that I have to find out how to do zone focusing to be able to use this camera. Which I already explained like a bunch of times on this channel right now, so if you have no idea what I'm talking about, how about you go watch some of my other videos, okay? Subscribe while you're at it. Okay, I'm gonna tell you again. I hope you can see these numbers up here, and you just set your aperture, let's say f8, then you take this little infinity symbol, put it on the 8, and then you see the other 8. So that's about 3, so about 3 meters to infinity meters is gonna be sharp right now. I hope it's meters. It is meters. That's how this works. Also, the light meter doesn't work like at all. If I put the ISO to 100, then it's giving me about the right readings, but I'm just gonna stick with this. Not gonna mess with all that. What is a bit strange is that to be able to use this camera, I already used my Canon A1 and a Cosine Highlight 4.2 to learn zone focusing beforehand, because those also can do zone focusing. You don't have to, but you can do it. So I did to learn zone focusing, so I could use it on this camera right here. And weirdly enough, I realized that the zone focusing experience on those cameras is a lot better than it is on a camera where it's the only way to focus. Because on this camera you can't even change the shutter speed without also changing the aperture. So the way it's supposed to be used is you set the shutter speed once and then you adjust the aperture accordingly to get a sharp image. What are you even focusing on? So you set the shutter speed once, let's put it to 125, and then you just change the aperture depending on what you need, and then you focus for that aperture. Which is kind of inconvenient, because the way I do zone focusing on my other cameras is I set the aperture to like f10, I set the focus accordingly, and then I just change the shutter speed to match whatever brightness I'm having right now, and then I don't have to focus at all. With this, the only way to really change the brightness is to change the aperture, so you have to change the focus all the time as well, which is kind of weird. So, but whatever. Just real quick, I forgot to talk about the alternative. If you do want to keep the same aperture, so let's say we have f8 and then we have the focus set for f8, what you can do is you can use this ring to adjust the exposure and then just change the shutter speed to whatever you need to still get the f8 aperture. So let's say we're here, we're at f8, Now we have to change the exposure, and we just change the shutter speed as well to still be on f8. This is the alternative where you don't have to adjust the focus, but no matter which one you choose, you always have to adjust 2 rings, whereas on a camera like this, I only change this, and then I keep the entire front element here the same. Another small little issue is that this camera maxes out at a shutter speed of 1/300, which is not quick. When I want to do zone focusing a lot, I like shooting a bit higher ISO films oftentimes, like Kodak Ultramax 400, because with that you can guarantee that you always have a pretty shut aperture, which makes it a lot easier, because the more shut off your aperture is, the easier it is to focus and to hit the focus. If you're shooting at like f2.8, which is the widest this camera will go, I'm not even gonna try it. With this I would be kind of worried to do that, because with a shutter speed of 1/300 and the aperture does go to 22, but with my Canon A1 I find myself like always hitting the maximum shutter speed on that camera, which is 1000 with ISO 400 film. So I don't even know if this would be able to shoot high ISO film on a bright day. Today it's not so bright, but I'm just not gonna risk it. Today I have a roll of Kodak Gold 200 in here. Oh yeah, I also don't know how the frame counter works, so I don't know how much shots I have left on this. Well, the roll is full, so just in time, because I can't wait to leave this loud ass place. I don't know, they're cutting down trees over there, there's a construction site back there. What is happening? How do I say this? So this camera is very fun. Am I confident that the results are gonna be good? No. What is on this roll? I don't know. I guess you already know, so feel free to leave a comment telling me what you think of the pictures I took with this camera. I'm sure I'm also gonna be doing a little monologue after the fact, telling you what I think of the pictures. Hey guys, it's me here, after getting the film developed, to talk about the pictures. What a shock. Well, in some ways I'm very positively surprised, and in other ways I'm not surprised at all, let's say that. So I actually like the pictures coming out of this camera more than I thought I would, at least in terms of just overall look and the colors and all that. Not only does the camera look very nice, pictures coming out of it also look very nice. But there is some small issues. So the sharpness of these pictures compared to the other cameras I've tested before does look quite a bit lower. The problem is I can't really compare them, because this was the first time I was using a different lab to get my scans from, and safe to say I'm not going back there again, because how? I literally have a collection of vintage cameras, and I don't think I even own a camera that would be able to produce images with such a low resolution, I don't know. So these pictures are less sharp, but there isn't really any way for me to tell how much of that is the actual camera and how much is just the fact that there is less pixels overall. The good news is I already used this camera to shoot another video that will come out next week, and I brought that film to a different lab again, and let's hope that they do a better job and I can actually compare it. I will keep you updated. I'm trying to figure out where this camera is gonna fit in my kind of collection and workflow, I guess, and it definitely is very fun. I'm thinking where I would like to use this camera. For example, back when I was in France this summer and I was doing photography in a very beautiful city, Biarritz. I had my Canon A1 there, but I think this is a place where this camera would have absolutely shined, because you know, it's summer, you're on a vacation, you're in a nice place, you have this camera, like, I mean, it couldn't get any more perfect. That being said, I just tried taking a selfie with the self-timer. That doesn't work, so that's fun. This is a camera that, like, I feel confident about that it's gonna give me the best results I can get. No, absolutely not. This is definitely a camera that it's just gonna be like a free time fun type of thing. But that being said, it is very fun to use once you're done setting all of this stuff in front of you up. Just the experience of using this viewfinder is very fun. And also just having a camera that's so different from any other camera that exists right now also is just so fun. And I think that's the only word I can use to describe this camera. Fun. Probably not the best camera, probably not the best pictures I've taken, but fun. Definitely one quick tip, if this video made you want to also pick up a camera like this, try buying it from an actual store, not from just a person, but from some sort of used camera store. I did, and what was great about that was I was able to text them beforehand, write them an email and ask them, hey, does this camera work? can you try it out for me real quick? Does the shutter work? Does everything work? And they were able to test it for me, so I knew it was gonna work before I bought it. Try doing that as well. If this video made you somehow want to also buy a camera like this, definitely make sure you buy it from somebody who knows how cameras work and who can test it for you, so you don't buy a camera that's broken. Trust me, having a camera that's broken isn't fun. Subscribe to the channel for more videos, both more camera reviews. I still have so many more cameras that I have to get to at some point, and also just other content, just content, just fun things. Subscribe to the channel. You like fun, don't you? Also, I have another rangefinder camera that I own now that's very similar to this. It's also broken, so let's see how I'm gonna be butchering that later on, but potential new video soon.